guys, welcome to today's video. So today's video is about the other 8 hours. The other 8 hours. 6 years ago, Mark and Sarah were on a cruise ship touring the Pacific Islands in the Pacific Ocean when a violent tropical storm started sinking the ship. One mast was broken off, the ship's hull was damaged, and the ship itself rolled and beat without a moment's pause. Mark and Sarah were two of the passengers who were plunged into the deep cold waters that night. They were doing whatever they could to keep their heads above the water. The next morning, Mark washed up onto a small and deserted island. Sarah washed up onto a neighboring island, also abandoned about 2 miles away from Mark. Their repeated appeals for help not heard, they started panicking and were overcome by fear and anxiety. But the initial shock didn't last long. There was a determination in their faces as they looked out to the sea. It was never going to be easy. They knew they would have to work hard to build a shelter, pick fruit, locate fresh water, and fish for food. The first few days were frightening and difficult, but they both managed to build rough and ready shelters to protect themselves from the rain, the sun, and the wild animals out there. They found fresh water deep into the islands and got plenty of food and fruit. As the days turned into weeks, they honed their skills in gathering food. In the late afternoons, Mark had time to relax after a hard day's work. He would climb to his favorite cliff and watch the waves crash against the rocks. As the sun set and the stars lit up, he would daydream of galaxies far, far away and pray that he would be rescued. Sarah struggled to survive each day too. Like Mark, her day began when the sun came up, chopping wood, climbing trees for fruit, picking nuts and berries, fishing, and getting water. This kept her busy. At the end of her daily routine, she would long to relax on the beach, but she knew she wanted more than just to survive. Sarah wanted to get off the island as soon as possible. Each afternoon, she spent an additional couple of hours gathering and storing wood. She would test every type of wood on the island to see which produced the darker and the thickest smoke. She collected rocks of all sizes and used them to spell the word help in big, gigantic letters. She then placed them on the beach on all 4 corners of the island. Sarah also dug fire pits on the beach in several areas where she kept a large supply of dry wood. Because it rained so often, Sarah found herself constantly replacing wet wood and vegetation with dry supplies. Her rock signs around the island needed care and attention. Not wanting to put her fate in a rescue crew who may never come, she started to build a raft out of bamboo and vines, a little bit at a time. Of course, she would relax as well. Her favorite time of the day was sunset. Sarah would take a handful of berries she'd picked earlier in the day down to the beach and sit under her favorite palm tree. She would daydream about her family and friends. During these daydreams, she would also spend a few extra minutes going over about her survival plan and how she would be rescued. Day after day, without any fanfare or recognition, Mark and Sarah did what they needed to survive. After several boring weeks, that day finally came. Sarah was picking fruit near the beach and Mark was trapping fish when both of them, almost at the same time, saw a small plane in the distance. Sarah jumped into action. She ran to the small fire and used it to light the large pile of wood. She dumped the vegetation on it and used her self-made tiki torch to light the stacks of wood into open fire. Huge plumes of fire rose into the air and filled the sky above her island. Meanwhile, Mark was just frantic. He ran around to and fro trying to figure out what to do. He fumbled trying to light the fire, and once he had one lit, he was disappointed that it produced very little visible smoke. He sprinted in the jungle and grabbed all kinds of vegetation he could find to throw on the fire. Each time he threw new vegetation on the fire to create more smoke, it quickly suffocated the fire and the fire would die. He would then waste precious time trying to light another one. The plane turned and started heading towards the islands. As it got closer, Mark was like, hang on a minute. He realized it was not flying towards him. It was headed several miles off course. The plane circled Sarah's island and touched down 100 yards offshore. 2 rescuers jumped out and started paddling toward her in a raft. As they got closer, she looked around the island one last time and dove into the ocean and swam toward the raft. Minutes later, Sarah was airborne. The pilot asked her if there were any other survivors. Of course she didn't know. She told them that she had been alone. Desperate to get their attention, Mark resorted to running up and down the beach, waving his arms in the air and screaming in desperation. As the plane flew out of sight, Mark realized that he had missed his chance. He let out a loud cry. He watched the plane fly away as he was left alone upon the mast. Don't worry, Mark survived, but he stayed alone on the island. He survived the 50-foot plunge into the water. He lived through the violent storm. He survived everything out there in the world and eventually made it to dry land. On the other hand, Sarah more than survived. She thrived. Even though she did what was necessary to make it each day, she had a bigger plan. She desperately wanted to get off the island and have a better life. She wanted to see her family again, to fall in love, to do the things that she loved. Basically, for Sarah, it wasn't a case of wanting to survive. She needed to survive. She needed to survive. On top of that, she made the decision that surviving itself was not enough. So what's the moral of this story? This story is about life, money, hope, and time. It's about the 8 hours in the day when you're not sleeping or working. Say you have a gap between where you are and where you would like to be. You want to build a house, you want a mortgage or have one you can't afford. Maybe you're riddled with debt and you have this painful feeling that life is passing you by. What do? Do you sleep more? Do you work more? What you have is the power of free time. This free time is the most valuable resource you have to achieve your ideal life. Think about it. You have 24 hours in your day. You lose 8 hours to sleep and you sell 8 hours to your job. That leaves you with just 8 hours more. So what are those 8 hours doing for you? Anyone who is successful have used the other 8 hours. Day in, day out, while other people are wasting their time, they have invested it. How you spend this extra 8 hours determines your today, tomorrow, and next year. It determines where you are in life and your future. By the way, just about everything that's important to you, anything you've ever experienced, happened in the other 8 hours. The relationships you have grown and matured in the other 8 hours. Let's say when you go on dates, when you go on long walks, when you fall in love, 8 hours. Even the arguments happen in the other 8 hours. Your children were made in the other 8 hours. They were also born in the other 8 hours. You go to the gym, cook, eat, all outside your normal working hours and your sleeping hours. All your hobbies, if you're good at them, they are all practiced in the other 8 hours. Your spiritual growth and your deepest connection to God occur in the other 8 hours too. When you're not sleeping, when you're not working. You have to first go home to pray, or you pray in the morning, or you pray on your lunch break. For those in school, it's the hours you put in revising to be better than the other students. For those developing that business idea, you also do that outside your working hours. There is so many examples, I can't finish them all. Basically, what I'm trying to say that everything with meaning is a result of how you've used your other 8 hours. You are where you are because of the time you have put in everything that you do. The 8 hours you sleep are lost. The 8 hours you sell for a paycheck are lost. Well, you get some money out of it. But what you have, really all you have are the 8 hours. That's where life happens. That's where you develop ideas. That's where you form relationships. That's where you connect with God. It doesn't matter where you are in life. The only way you can improve your life and your financial situation is to do something for the other 8 hours, for the 8 hours remaining. Look at it this way. The time you work and the time you sleep, they help you survive. But the other 8 hours can help you thrive. So if you want success, don't be like Mark. Be like Sarah. Don't be stuck in the loop of forgotten dreams. Don't get stranded in boredom. If you find yourself daydreaming of a different life but have no idea how to achieve it, there is only one solution. Use the other 8 hours. Well, we've come to the end of the video and I hope you enjoyed it. In Schwarzenegger's voice, I will be back with a new video.